Now to the latest out of Minneapolis. President Trump's border czar, who's now in charge of the immigration crackdown there, is saying there could be a reduction in federal agents, but only if local leaders cooperate and allow access to jails.
Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara just made what sources are calling unprecedented move to defy ICE after another fatal shooting, and the implications might trigger constitutional crisis between local law enforcement and federal agents. We're not talking about polite disagreement expressed through proper channels. We're talking about reports that after ICE shot and killed another civilian outside a donut shop, Chief O'Hara refused their demand to stay back, broke past their perimeter, and ordered his officers to secure the crime scene while calling in all police personnel. That he's reportedly maintaining control of that scene despite ICE wanting to cover up evidence of what happened, just like they did after Renee Good's murder. And what might make this moment so significant is the coordination behind it. Sources suggest Mayor Frey, Attorney General Ellison, and Governor Tim Walz all agreed beforehand that they wouldn't stand down if ICE killed someone again. When police chief defies direct orders from federal agents and holds crime scene where they committed killing, that's not routine jurisdictional dispute. But before we break down what happened in that shocking video and why Chief O'Hara's defiance might force showdown over whether ICE can continue killing with impunity, real quick, you cannot trust corporate media to cover this story with urgency it deserves because they only care about content that increases their views and profits. That's why we built Patrick Smith Show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want analysis that actually explains how Minneapolis officials coordinated response to prevent another ICE cover-up and what happens when Trump tries to federalize local police to stop investigation, hit that subscribe button right now. Alright, let's get into what the video actually shows and why sources suggest it proves ICE agents are nothing but untrained, violent goons operating without accountability, because the footage is damning. Reports indicate it shows ICE agent hitting victim in the head before shooting. Then after killing him, agents stand around making no attempt to check his condition or summon medical help. They just watch him die while bystanders scream in horror asking what they just did. That's not law enforcement response to justified use of force. That might be murder followed by callous indifference to human life they just ended. And when Chief O'Hara saw what happened, sources suggest he recognized this was exactly what officials feared after Renee Good's killing. Another ICE murder that they'd try to cover up by controlling crime scene and preventing real investigation. So he reportedly refused their demand to stay back and secured the scene. Let's start by examining what the video actually shows, because sources suggest it's going to be impossible for ICE to claim this was justified shooting when the evidence is this clear. Reports indicate footage shows ICE agent hitting victim in head before fatal shots. That's not defensive response to imminent threat. That might be assault followed by execution. Think about what sequence of events that reveals. Agent escalates encounter through violence, then shoots person they just assaulted, then claims shooting was self-defense. That's pattern of behavior that should result in murder charges, not administrative review. And the aftermath is equally damning. After killing the victim, sources suggest agents just stand around. No attempt to render aid. No checking for pulse or breathing. No calling for ambulance or medical assistance. They apparently just watch him die while bystanders scream asking what they did. That reaction reveals they might not view person they shot as human being deserving medical attention. When supposed law enforcement kills someone and shows no concern for whether they might survive, that's not training failure. That might be indication they intended to kill rather than having shooting be tragic accident. Think about what bystanders captured on video. People screaming over and over while agents stand there without responding or attempting to help. Sources indicate that horror in civilian voices should haunt anyone who watches footage. These are people who just witnessed murder committed by their own government in front of donut shop in broad daylight. And agents who committed it apparently feel no need to explain, justify, or even acknowledge what happened. That level of callousness suggests they've been conditioned to view civilians as enemy combatants rather than people they're supposed to protect. And there's specific detail about the donut shop location. Reports suggest this is deliberately chosen setting designed to humiliate victim and community. shooting someone outside Donut Shop, a place associated with police stereotypes, then standing around as he dies creates imagery of contempt for both victim and any notion of proper law enforcement. Sources indicate this wasn't random location where encounter happened to occur. ICE has demonstrated pattern of conducting operations in ways designed to maximize terror and humiliation. Choosing that specific location for killing might reveal psychological warfare element to their tactics. But let's talk about what Chief O'Hara did after the shooting, and why sources suggest it represents calculated defiance that Minneapolis officials coordinated in advance. Because according to Minneapolis Star-Tribune, ICE told local police to stay back and not secure the scene. That's not unusual request when federal agents are involved, but reports indicate O'Hara refused. He broke past ICE perimeter and ordered his officers to secure the crime scene. Then he called in all police personnel, not just for crowd control, but to maintain control against inevitable ICE attempt to push them off. Think about what that decision required. O'Hara was reportedly defying direct orders from federal law enforcement. That's not action police chief takes lightly because it creates immediate conflict with agency that has considerable power and backing of presidential administration. But sources suggest O'Hara looked at what happened after Renee Good's murder and recognized if local authorities didn't act this time, ICE would cover up evidence again just like before. And there's specific precedent that explains his reasoning. After Renee Good was killed, state and local law enforcement were allegedly frozen out of investigation. ICE controlled scene, controlled evidence, controlled narrative, and result was no accountability whatsoever for agents who broke into home and killed woman in her own space. Sources indicate Mayor Frey, Attorney General Ellison, and Governor Walz all expressed anger and frustration about being excluded from that investigation, that they recognized ICE was covering up murder and local authorities had no power to stop it. But reports suggest this time was different because officials coordinated response in advance. They apparently agreed that if ICE killed someone again, local authorities would not stand down. They'd secure the scene, preserve evidence, conduct their own investigation regardless of what ICE demanded. That premeditated defiance explains why O'Hara acted so decisively. He wasn't making split-second decision in chaos of moment. He was allegedly executing plan that officials had discussed specifically to prevent another cover-up. Share this video with everyone you know because there's reportedly another dimension, the crowd response. Thousands of protesters have taken to streets of Minneapolis. They're not just demonstrating against this specific killing. Sources indicate they're expressing rage about entire pattern of ICE violence that's terrorized their community, and O'Hara has to manage those protests while maintaining crime scene control while facing potential ICE assault on his perimeter. But let's examine Tim Walz's situation, because sources suggest he's being pushed into corner, where any decision he makes creates catastrophic consequences. Reports indicate O'Hara's police force is stretched to breaking point, trying to prevent chaos in Minneapolis. Protesters are in streets expressing justified rage. ICE might try forcing their way onto crime scene to destroy evidence. And Trump is allegedly considering federalizing Minneapolis police right now to force them to surrender scene to ICE. If he calls up National Guard to restore order, he's deploying military forces against his own citizens who are protesting murders committed by federal agents. That's optics disaster that plays into Trump's narrative about Democratic governors being weak on crime and needing federal intervention. Sources suggest Trump wants Walz to deploy Guard so he can claim Minnesota is in chaos requiring federal takeover. But alternative is letting situations spiral where O'Hara's stretched police force can't maintain control, and there's specific threat of federalization. Trump could invoke Insurrection Act to federalize Minneapolis Police and National Guard if deployed. That would put all those forces under federal command, meaning they'd have to follow Trump's orders, including presumably surrendering crime scene to ICE. Sources indicate that's nightmare scenario where local officials lose all authority and ICE gets exactly what they want. But think about political calculation Walz has to make. If he doesn't deploy Guard and situation deteriorates, Trump federalizes police anyway, claiming Walz can't maintain order. If he does deploy Guard, Trump federalizes them along with police. Reports suggest either path leads to same outcome where Trump takes control and ICE escapes accountability. That's intentional trap where every option produces result Trump desires. make sure you're subscribed to Patrick Smith Show because there's reportedly another element of Walz's calculation. The political optics of how this ends. If he deploys guard and they restore order without federal takeover, he looks like strong leader who protected his state. If federal takeover happens, he looks weak and unable to govern. But step back and look at how Minneapolis officials prepared for this moment, because sources suggest their coordination reveals learning from past failures. After Renee Good's murder, Mayor Frey, Attorney General Ellison, and Governor Walz all reportedly expressed frustration about being frozen out. They recognized ICE had covered up evidence and prevented real investigation, and they apparently decided that wouldn't happen again. Think about what that coordination required. These officials had to discuss worst-case scenario where federal agents commit another murder, had to plan specific response, including who would secure scene, who would command local forces, what they'd do if ICE tried forcing them off. Sources indicate that's not typical planning for local government because it involves preparing to defy federal law enforcement. And there's specific role each official plays. O'Hara commands police who physically secure and hold the scene. Frey provides political cover as mayor authorizing O'Hara's actions. Ellison brings state law enforcement resources that can conduct investigation. Walz commands National Guard if deployment becomes necessary and serves as final authority challenging federal overreach. So what should Democratic officials do given this crisis? Because sources suggest simply holding crime scene and hoping Trump doesn't intervene isn't sufficient strategy. Reports indicate first step is Attorney General Ellison formally opening criminal investigation into ICE agents involved in shooting, not administrative review. Criminal homicide investigation with specific agents named as suspects. Think about what else Minnesota officials should do immediately. Governor Walz should mobilize National Guard not for crowd control, but to reinforce O'Hara's perimeter around crime scene. Sources suggest deploying guards specifically to prevent ICE from destroying evidence makes their role clear. They're not suppressing protesters. They're protecting investigation from federal interference. And their specific role for Congress even before Democrats take control. Progressive members should demand emergency hearings about this killing and others. Subpoena ICE leadership. Force them to testify under oath about policies that led to these deaths. But reports suggest Democrats need much bolder rhetoric. Not just saying this is concerning or that investigation is needed, they should be calling ICE agents murderers, demanding their arrests and prosecutions, announcing that when Democrats take power, everyone involved in these killings will face justice. Share this with everyone because there's reportedly also question of what happens with evidence. O'Hara's officers are preserving crime scene. They're collecting witness statements, securing video footage, documenting physical evidence. Sources indicate if ICE gains control, all that evidence might disappear. So here's what Chief O'Hara's defiance reveals. After agents shot and killed another civilian, after video showed them hitting victim then shooting him, O'Hara refused ICE's demand to stay back. He broke through their perimeter and secured crime scene. That's coordinated defiance planned with mayor, attorney general, and governor. Trump's likely response is federalization threat. For Democrats, this demands bold action with explicit promises of prosecution and commitment to dismantling ICE. The question is whether O'Hara can hold that scene long enough for real investigation.